Alrighty, good morning guys, how we doing? Welcome to another week. Setting some things up here. If you guys are a member of the channel, make sure to head over to the Google Docs. We got Ike or Inter in the Discord chat setting up the Google Docs for us. Thank you so much for that again. So we added some things to that. If you guys remember, you'll see it. So we added he added the earnings calendar there, so you can see that there. So shout out to you for adding that. You got earnings season, and then you got your tickers. And then let's see, what's our quote of the week? In investing, what is comfortable is rarely profitable. Robert Arnott. Mr. Arnott is the founder and chairman of Research Affiliates. Very nice. I like that quote. Yeah, so a lot of times we're sort of uncomfortable, sometimes doing something, that's what everyone else is doing. What's comfortable is rarely profitable, right? Sort of like following the herd. So sometimes got to find your way through, find something that's working for you. So I like that. It's a nice quote, earnings calendar, and then we'll get through into our economic calendar as well. So make sure to put your tickers there today for us to look at the end of the stream. And then let's go ahead and get started. So today, earnings, nothing major. Tilray, if you guys watch the weed stocks, you got Tilray today. This was before open. So today, you guys can see a little bit red in the pre-market, right? I think maybe just a little bit more continuation to the downside from last week, and also maybe some more concerns about Mr. Jerome Powell that's going to be coming out tomorrow and just having a little bit of a speech. So that's tomorrow. Economic calendar, we'll take a look at it. That might be causing a little bit more downside as well. But overall, just this continuation of fear of rising interest rates and the balance sheet, the Fed sort of restructuring the balance sheet a little bit is what's causing a little bit of downside here. So right now, that's what we have to follow. We have to keep an eye on, is this downside going to continue this week? Monday, as I usually say, is a day where I like to watch. I like to get an idea of what this market wants to do on a Monday. And we're coming down into some very major technical levels today. So I think there's a lot to be watched today. This is an important day. We're at 36,000 on the Dow. We're at a very important trend line on the NASDAQ. Is there some type of relief off these technical levels today? That's something that I'm definitely wanting to keep an eye out for. So, I know we all want to be playing downside today. I know it seems very obvious, and that would be the comfortable thing to do, right? To play the downside. That feels very comfortable, right? But I want to make sure that I do not play downside blindly as we approach strong support levels. So that's something that I need to be aware of. I need to keep that in my mind today. Do not just blindly play downside as we approach technical support. Now, if we start breaking it and it looks really bad, then yeah, we'll catch some downside. But that's the first 10-15 minutes. It needs to give me some kind of confirmation of that downside move, right? So we'll go ahead and look at all that today. I'll sort of explain, what I'm talking about with these technical levels. So futures, as always, and then the gap downs again sometimes cause, as you guys have seen in the past, sometimes those gap downs, they cause a little bit of upside in the morning, right? You get a little bit of that filling the gap to the upside. So that could be a great play today as well, right? You get that upside move. You get it to start to fail at some previous closing prices, which we can look at today. And then you start to get that rejection come in. So we'll sort of walk through that idea today in today's live stream on a few different stocks. So futures, you guys already know that. If you come back here, we look at futures every day. Economic calendar, we have that here. So today, nothing that I really know. Tilray, commercial materials, AZZ, I'm not really sure what these are. Accolade, and then Limonera. Is it Limon IRA? I don't know what this is. You tell me how to pronounce that. I'm not sure. But nothing too crazy. Tilray here in the pre-market. So just know that earnings Earnings season is approaching. Know that. Definitely know that. Earnings season is approaching. If I can get the whole calendar here, I can show you guys. 1 second. So the whole calendar of the upcoming earnings season is right here. Let me pull this up for you. So here is the full. Here we go. All right, so you guys can see here's the full calendar, and you can see we're going to start getting pretty heavy here in mid-January, right? So you got some big days coming up. You got the 20th has Netflix, you got BOA, some banks coming up here soon. Here's some big Dow stocks, J&J, Verizon, 3M, GE, American Express. That'll be a big day. What else we got? That's not much tech of this month. I think tech is pretty heavy in February. So Brian, that's a great comment. Hope you lose all your money if you short a stock. That's the problem with the market. Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Brian. Very much appreciated, sir. Yeah, so got some heavy earnings coming up, but this is you guys can see it's mostly the Dow names this month. Next month, we're going to start getting those tech names. So there you go. Just a little insight into what's coming up. You got earnings calendars coming up, or earnings coming up. And we want to make sure we're aware of that. All right. So banks this morning, a little bit of outperformance. Economic calendar, I will pull that up as well. 1 second. Make sure we're aware of all this boring stuff before we get into the charts, guys. I want to make sure everyone is aware of what's going on with earnings and going on with economic calendar before we get into the charts. So you're welcome. January 10th, so that's today, wholesale inventories, that's at 10 a.m. Tuesday, tomorrow, we have this right here, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell confirmation hearing. So I'm going to assume this is going to be just a talk about what came out on the FOMC minutes. So this could definitely be a very important time of the day here tomorrow at 10 a.m. So make sure you guys are going to be aware of 10 a.m. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell tomorrow. Well, if you come on the live stream, I'll remind you, but if you do not tomorrow, make sure you are aware of that. Wednesday, we got our CPI data. That could be interesting as well. Thursday, we get our usual jobless claims. And then Friday, we get our retail sales. So it's a pretty decently busy week of economic news. I think tomorrow is going to be a very interesting 10 a.m. day for us tomorrow. So that's economic calendar, just making sure everyone's aware. Now let's go ahead and get started. Banks outperforming this morning. We may be able to see this continuation. If we're going to look at the XLF today, XLF broke out of a very big all-time high, I believe all-time high last week. So XLF actually looking very, very nice, guys. If you go to the daily chart, we are breaking out here on XLF. So definitely worth watching the banks today, guys. We definitely need to be aware of that outperformance. So keep that on watch today. Tesla back to 1,000. Nice psychological whole number. Let's see how it performs off that 1,000 today. We'll take a look at the charts. Lulu this morning, lowering guidance. Maybe I'm not buying enough Lululemon anymore. That could be what it is. Maybe people are finally just not having the cash, or having, maybe this is a sign of, high quality, high end goods maybe starting to lose some steam. Or maybe I've always thought about this for Lulu. Maybe the market's starting to get a little saturated for them, because with how long their clothes last, I've gotten to the point where I have probably about maybe 7 or 8 shirts of Lulu over the last 5 years. I've probably accumulated maybe 7, 8 shirts, maybe a couple shorts here and there. And I'm getting to the point, to be honest, guys, where I just rewash. I wear my 5 shirts, I rewash them, and I rewear the 5 shirts, right? So do I really want to get more Lululemon? At this point, not really. I've gotten my shirts, and I just continue to wear my shirts and rewash them. So maybe, that market saturation could be coming in for Lulu, because their shirts last forever, right? I mean, I have the same shirt forever, and it just stays the same. Everything's the same. It's different for cotton shirts, right? Because it gets bad, you have to throw it out, you got to get a new one. So maybe that's happening. I don't know. That's just an idea, just me theorizing here. Nvidia below 270. This is a very key level for Nvidia, and it is cracking below 270. This is very interesting. So make sure to be keeping an eye on Nvidia today. If the market slips today, Nvidia will definitely be one that gets hurt. Nvidia has been getting crushed in downside days. It's one that definitely extends to the downside. 5-6% down days I've seen on Nvidia in the last few weeks. So if we get that market downside, Nvidia under 270, this could be a nice downside play. Absolutely. Canal Street, maybe. Yeah, I don't dry my. Yeah, you gotta wash them right. Correct. No drying. Apple. I think Apple has good room back to 168. Yeah, that's my analysis. No, I'm just theorizing about why they would have a lower guidance for this year. Maybe just, it's most likely having to do with the economy, right? People just not buying, maybe the high quality, very expensive goods. They are very expensive. Apple back to 168. We'll take a look at it. It has some really clean room right back to 168. I like the possibility. I'm going to keep an eye on it. Caterpillar has been strong, very strong. Big breakout on Cat. And we will go ahead and take a look at Caterpillar today. Big breakout. Also some strength on these Dow stocks. So maybe this is one to keep an eye out for. Netflix, if you guys remember, went on that big run a few months ago. It has given up the entire move. So Netflix is all the way back to where it started. Given up the entire move to the upside, all the way back. I don't remember what it moved off of. I don't know if it was it earnings? No, it wasn't earnings. It was in preparation for earnings. It was post-earnings, a few weeks after earnings, pushed all the way up, continued off of good earnings, and then has given back the entire move. So very, very interesting. We'll go ahead and look at that. Qualcomm, downside opportunity. I think Qualcomm has room to the downside. Why do I say that? This stock has held up really well. And just to give you an insight real quick before we get into it later in today's stream, just look at these wicks on the weekly chart. These wicks up here in the weekly chart make me believe there is a little bit of too tough of resistance up here. This looks really tough up here. So I definitely could see some of this here. I could definitely see some downside, especially if the market pulls back. So I'm definitely watching Qualcomm for a downside opportunity. I can just see these wicks up here on the weekly. Look at all the wicks once we approach this 190 area. So that is definitely something that I am keeping an eye on here into next week, into this week, next week, as long as it takes to start seeing this downside come in. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, let's take a look at the futures. Let's go to the daily chart, and we are going to be looking at the long-term uptrend that we talked about a few days ago. And this is, let me get some more time here. Here's a little bit more time. All right, guys, so I just want to really quickly say, I know, like, even everyone in the Discord chat and everyone in a lot of people's minds today are all looking to play downside today. And I know, I don't want to sound like delusional. I know that there is definitely a downside opportunity today, but please don't do it blindly, because there's a lot of times where the downside looks really easy and it really screws you. So just come into today unbiased. I know everyone wants to see that downside today. I would like to play the downside as well. I'm being honest. I would like to play that. It's going to be easy if it's a really big bloodbath, but we got to come in unbiased, because this is pretty sold off, and this could easily give you some kind of BS bounce here, right? You could easily bounce here on the NASDAQ. So just come into today a little unbiased. But anyways, here's the NASDAQ. Here's the daily chart. You guys can see we have pulled back to this long-term uptrend, right? Long-term uptrend on the NASDAQ. We're below 15.7, right? So that 15.7 is no longer holding. That is important to keep an eye out for. Here was 15.7. That was previous resistance that was turning into support here. You can see support, tried to hold support here, but ultimately failed that hold. Now, we are back to that uptrend where we have held support many, many times in the past, right? Since October of 2020, we have started to be on this uptrend, and we've held it every time. Now, does that happen this time? That is what we need to be watching today. We need to see, is there any support off this uptrend today? That is what I would be watching. If we do get a push higher, I would expect very tough resistance at 15.7. So be aware of that, guys. If we go to the 4-hour chart, if we look at this move, if we get a bounce today, just by some, just a little bit of an over-exaggerated downside move, maybe we get a little bit of a bounce in the morning. If we do see that bounce, just be aware of the resistance here at 15.7. Be aware of 15.7, and also be aware of these lows here around 15.550. So I would be aware of that upside resistance in both situations, right? If you get a move higher here, 15.550. If you go more, 15.7. These are definitely some rejection zones to be aware of. If we go to the hourly chart or the 30-minute, you're going to see this even better. So here it is. Here is the 30-minute chart, and you're going to see right here. If you get a push higher, 15.550, right? That's your potential rejection zone right here. If we do push higher, and then after that, 15.7, right? So those are the two that I would watch today. I would watch 15.550 for resistance and 15.7. If we get some type of, let's just say some type of morning pop, some type of short covering in the morning, some kind of sympathy bounce. If you do see that, watch for it to start to slow down around these resistance levels. If you start to see that, then maybe you can play that downside once again. But I have to say, I'm someone that's expecting some type of dead cat bounce this morning or some type of bull trap this morning. I don't think the market is going to continue to sell off, being down 1.2% in the pre-market. I think you are going to see some type of fake bounce, maybe back into resistance, and then you get that rejection. And this rejection is always so sweet to play, because this is when the longs start piling out. People start panicking. Anyone that bought in here starts to panic. And this is the downside move that's very, very sweet. It just unfolds. So I'm looking for this today. I'm looking for a fake bounce, a rejection, and a downside move. That would be the play I want to play. The play I want to trade. So keep an eye on that today. 15.550 rejection, 15.7. That's what I'm watching. To the downside, uptrend. That's really it. Watching this uptrend. If you do not get that uptrend, then you're probably coming back down to this 15.150, right? This area right here. That's probably the next level I'd be watching. Let's take a look real quick at the 200 SMA on the NASDAQ. Let's take a real quick look. What's the 200 SMA at? Let me make sure I'm aware of that. Let me just switch this to the 200. 200. So green's at the 200. Okay, so it's pretty far down to the 200. That's 14.9. So I think next level is 15.150. That's what I'm going to be watching. 15.150 if we do not hold this uptrend. All right, guys, that's the number one. ES is next. You guys can see ES is breaking below our 46.75 level. So we are now back below. I would assume the ES, if we really start to weaken, comes back to this September high. So September high right here. You got support here. You got support here. I would assume the ES maybe moves back down to this September high here. That is what I'd be watching today. I don't think that happens today. If we get weak all week, then yeah, that's about 2% to the downside. ES 2% to the downside brings you to that September high. That is where I think you have to come back down to find support on this market. I just don't really see anywhere of structure in this area. I don't see much structure in this area before coming back down to 45.50, right around there, 4,550 on the ES. So Just watch out for the ES to slip here. This is where I'd probably see the ES coming back down to. In the short term, I just don't really see much structure on this market. I mean, it's just choppy in here. So you got a pretty nice downside this morning. What I would look for today, I would look for the push back higher, the rejection, and then that I would look for that push back higher, rejection of 46.75, and then your downside move. That's what I'd be looking for. So ES breaking under a key level here, and could definitely continue down to the 45.50 area. That's what I'll be watching. You have this big gap here, a lot of volatility in this area. I don't think there's much structure in this area to hold this up. Hamza, thank you, sir. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate that. For the coffee, thank you so much. Dow, daily chart. Dow on the daily chart is back to a key level. This is a very key level for the Dow to hold, 36,000. Why is that? Because this was previous resistance. I would like to see that turn into support. I do not have strong hopes for it, but I would like to see that. I've just realized that this is still at the 200. I need to turn that back. There we go. So here's resistance. Does this turn into support today? You guys can see that. Yeah, that's around the 100 SMA, right? All right. So 36,000, that's what I would be watching. If we go to the 4-hour chart, guys, you can see it's pretty clear, right? You have this 36,000 resistance. You'd love to see that turn into support here. However, I just don't have very high hopes. I'm not going to just take a bullish trade off of that, right? I need to wait to see if it happens. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm waiting and I'm seeing. I need to get more insight into this market before I'm comfortable trading. If you don't feel comfortable with where the market's going, guys, you do not need to trade. On a Monday, on the first day of the trading week, I don't know where this market wants to react. And, having that doubt in my head is not going to make me a good trader today. So I need to wait for confirmation of which way this market wants to go, 10, 15 minutes, maybe more, and see, are the futures holding? Are we getting a sympathy bounce, or are we just flushing through these levels? And if we do, then we make our decision of which direction to play. So today, 36,000 on the Dow. That's what I'm watching. You guys can see that's that previous resistance. And it's also the 20 SMA, right, on the daily chart. So right there. So that's that. Real quick, we'll jump into the Russell, but the Russell's pretty easy, right? The Russell just continues to trade sideways, rejected off this 2280 level that we talked about. Big rejection. I'd probably expect it to come back down to this 2125 area, back to this triple bottom, maybe right back around here, 2140, and then 2125, right in that area. So that's what I'd be looking for on the Russell, just continuing to trade in this channel. Now, I didn't go over Tesla yet. All right, guys, so that's the futures. Overall, my recommendation for anyone out there is to wait for this market to show you direction. I know it looks bearish today, but what I would be looking for is a better entry. I don't want to just be shorting or be buying put options at open after we've already moved down 1.1% on the NASDAQ. I want a better entry. I want a fake bounce. I want a dead cat bounce. I want a bull trap. I want an entry, a real entry, not a chase. So look for that. I think you will get it here in the morning. I think you will get a bounce, a sympathy bounce, or we just hold up at this level because of that trend line on the NASDAQ, right? So look for a better entry today. Wait for the market to confirm the direction. I know it looks bearish now, but everyone knows that. Everyone's looking at it. And I'm sure there's going to be some fake outs out there. So be aware of them. All right. Banks. XLF. So you guys can see here on the daily chart, a big breakout of the daily chart right there. Big candle on Friday, big breakout on the banks, very strong day. That's very interesting to me, and that makes me believe that the banks could continue here. There is definitely some strength coming in here for the banks. So XLF, big breakout, big downtrend breakout. You guys can see right here, we had that downtrend. We started to break out of it. Look at that. So very big move here on XLF, and that is going to help stocks like JP Morgan. So JPM broke out last week, right, and has been sort of consolidating. So if you break the highs of this candle, what is the high of this candle? 168.58. 168.58. If you break the high of this candle, I would have to assume there is more here. So watch the highs right there, guys. Of those, if you go to the 4-hour, we were getting awfully close to that this morning. Look at this. So I would definitely be watching JP Morgan to break out of these highs. 168.58. You can see we're starting to curl that way. If you get that breakout, if we go back to the daily chart, that is a very big daily chart breakout, and that could definitely continue here. So right here, you can see it right there, right? So that's what I'll be watching for today on JP Morgan. Goldman Sachs, a little bit weaker on Goldman Sachs, but you can see we're starting to hold there at this 398, and we're back up to around 390, or right, we were up to around 400 this morning, but it looks like we've pulled back. Yeah, a little bit of a wick up to 400, but not as strong, but you can see that is starting to break out as well. Bank of America has been a strong stock. Look at this, unbelievable. Huge breakout on Bank of America. You know, just even on Friday was breaking new highs. So you can see it's continuing here into today. So Bank of America has been rock solid. Banks have been very strong. Wells Fargo, look at this. Big breakout on Wells Fargo, up to 55. Monster breakout on the bank. So I would probably ignore Goldman Sachs, guys, if you are looking for banks. I'd probably ignore Goldman Sachs. It's just not really as liquid, not really as fluent as some of these other ones. JP Morgan looks better. Bank of America looks, that's not Bank of America. Bank of America looks great. Wells Fargo looks good. So what's Morgan Stanley looking like? Sort of lagging this move. So the two strong ones are these smaller, more consumer banks. Wells Fargo, Bank of America. And then you got JP Morgan. So watch those banks today, guys, please. They have showed a lot of strength and could definitely continue. Tesla. So we are back to 1,000, right? We're at 997. We're a little bit below 1,000 today. I would watch this level heavily to see what it does here. This is a very important level. We have bounced here many times. 1, 2, 3, resistance 4, support 5, and let's see. Does this have any hold here today? Is there anything there? If there is not, this could be a pretty nasty downside move, right? Down to 882 if you start to really weaken here. However, I do not like trading Tesla puts as we approach heavy support. So I want to be aware of this support in this area. Just watch this 1,000, this psychological level. Maybe what we look for, if I turn on the previous day close, turn that on real quick. Maybe what you want to look for is a bounce into the previous day close. If we get a bounce into Friday's close and then we reject off that, that might be the nice trade right there. So you can see we have done that in the past. Look at this. This is Thursday morning. Push into the previous day close. Reject heavily off of it, right? Here's an example of us trying to hold it and then ultimately failing that yesterday's close, previous day close. And then maybe today we get that push off 1,000, a little bit of a fake bounce off 1,000, reject around 1026, and then you start to push back lower, right? So in the early morning, I'm going to be very careful, but if I start to see stuff rejecting off the previous day close, then I'm definitely watching it. So today, 1026, going to keep an eye on that for a rejection, and then 1,000, going to see if Tesla can find some type of bounce here off 1,000. Historically, a pretty strong support level, and also a psychological support level here at 1,000. So I'm going to be watching that today. That's how I'm going to trade it. If I'm going to trade downside, I'm going to wait to see if it can get above or if it can get to that previous day close for a rejection. That would be a beautiful rejection today. All right. We'll quickly go to Lulu. Lulu this morning lowered their guidance. They warned of a lower guidance, I guess off of it wasn't Lulu the one that raised their guidance? You guys remember that? Was that Lulu? I'm trying to remember now. That was a long time ago. Yeah, they raised their full year 2021 guidance back in December. But I think even before that, they raised their guidance. So that's pretty interesting. They raised their guidance and then lowered their guidance. That's That's a little bit strange. Seems like the analysts over there don't really know how to project their earnings, so that's not too good. But you guys can see big push on Lulu. Previous earnings, nice push. And then December earnings got a little bit nasty. And you can see we are breaking down pretty heavily. If Lulu continues, this could just be another stock that starts to trade within a range. Could we just start to trade within this range on Lulu? That is something that I am concerned about and really don't want to see as a shareholder. So that is something to watch. Something to watch for sure. Lulu, really nasty rejection off these previous highs. You guys can see right here. We pushed higher. We broke down, pushed higher, rejected some previous support, and turned it back into resistance. And this news this morning is not great. So you can see big gap down this morning on Lulu off of lower guidance. So maybe look for some downside today, guys. Maybe look for these previous highs right here around 346. Oh, no, we're below that. I'm sorry. That's the 4 hour. Okay. So we're below that. Wow. Let me go to the 360 real quick. Where can we expect there to be any support here? I mean, you're just sort of in chop right now. Maybe these lows here. You have some lows right back here around 326. And you have the ultimate lows down here around 301, 300. So this is just a lot of chop, guys, that I would be a little bit careful in. But a really nasty downside move here. Really nasty downside move. Watch 326 today. It looks like that's where it's starting to hold. It's trying to hold that 326. So that's actually a good level. If you want to trade downside on Lulu, look for that 326 right here. If you start to crack below that 326 again, maybe look for this move right here. Look for that drop, that resistance, that rejection, and then back down to the downside. That's the level I'd use, because that 326 is actually a level here on the 4 hour that you can look at. So 326 is the level I'd watch today on Lulu, guys. Right. If I zoom into this 4 hour chart, right here, previous lows 326 turns into resistance, resistance, resistance. Yeah, I'd watch that 326. I think that would be a good flush point to the downside if you see that drop below today. So keep an eye on that 326 level on Lulu. Nvidia. Look at this breakdown on Nvidia. Looking like it's starting to get a little bit concerning here, right? So the low of this candle right here, the low of this candle, I'll zoom in. The low of this candle right here is 265.10. 265.10 is the low of that candle. If we go to 265.10, we put that on the charts. The low of today's candle, if we go to the 1 minute chart, is 265.24. So you can see Nvidia's trying to hold this little 265.10 level. However, if you break that, I have to assume there is downside here. I have to assume there is more downside if you get a pullback below 265.10. Right here at this previous low, if you break that, I think you're going to have a little bit of downside move. Maybe down to this 250. Right here around 250 even, where there's a little bit of structure there. So I'd watch that. 250 even would be the next level. But yeah, 265, that's big. If you drop below that, I would expect there to be downside. If you get a bounce off that, maybe look for the rejection back at 272. And why do I say that? Because if we zoom in, you guys can see this was a previous support level. So if you get this bounce, look for that rejection, right? If you get the bounce, look for the rejection. If I go to the 1 minute chart and I go to the previous day's close, you are going to see it is right around that level. So look, if you get a fake bounce today, all right, if you get a fake bounce today off this support level, maybe you get a pretty decent bounce up to 270s. Watch for that rejection to start coming in. Maybe it's not today, maybe it's tomorrow, right? Look at this previous support. That previous support is going to turn into resistance if you push into it. So if you get that bounce, watch for this rejection, right? You get the previous support, you get the previous day close. That is going to be a very tough level to get through if we see a bounce there. So just be aware of it. 272, watch for a resistance. And then today, You really want to see 265 hold. If you do not see that hold, I would assume there is downside here because there is not much support in this area. So watch out for that. All right, Apple. I think Apple moves back down to 168. It looks like it's already. I didn't realize it's almost there already from the after hours action. Let me go ahead and put the charts right back to how they should be. 20, 50, 100. There we go. So sorry, I didn't mean for that to happen. I think we come back here. I think we come back to this 168, guys, on Apple, right back to these previous lows. So I'm going to be looking for that. Yeah, I see you guys saying Tilray. I know it had earnings today. We'll look at it later. I'm not really someone that trades Tilray, but we'll look at it. So push higher, turn into resistance, turning into support. I would assume Apple comes back down to this level today or over the next few weeks. 168, 167.50 previous support. I would assume it tries to hold this level. So I think you got a little bit more room here down to 168 area. If you guys go to the 30-minute, get a little bit more time here, 90 days. You can see that is right around the level that I would be looking for Apple to move down to. So I'm going to be watching that. Maybe buy some more shares down here at 168. That's the level I'm watching. Pretty nasty move to the downside. Almost 7-8% on Apple over the last few days. So nice downside on Apple. I'm watching that 168 level here. That's the big support level that I'll keep an eye out for. That's Apple. Caterpillar. So Caterpillar is a pretty decent watch to the upside, guys. I know it's all doom and gloom, but there's a few stocks that are moving higher. Here's one, Caterpillar. Caterpillar and Banks, the Dow stocks, are still performing pretty well. Big move on Cat, through a 220 resistance, this whole little zone, 220 to 222. You guys can see there was previous highs here. So you got through this big zone here. Previous highs, and then you're starting to push through. Here on Caterpillar. So there is some strength in this market, right? That's a pretty nice strength move right there. Now, however, we need to be aware because you are starting to push into some resistance levels. So right in this area, you guys can see this was previous support right here, previous support, and it's starting to turn into a little bit of resistance, right? So you can see a little bit of a wick here on the daily chart. If I zoom in, see that wick right there? A little bit of a wick on the daily chart, showing that there is definitely some resistance here because this was previous support, right around this 226, 227. So watch out for that today. If you do push higher, watch out for that 226, 227. To take the flip side of this, this is a pretty, you don't call it a bear market until it's 20% off the highs. Is it 20% off the highs? It's 7% off the highs. 20% off the highs is a bear market. So maybe 13 area. This is not really bearish, guys. It's just, I understand. Like, I don't think in short term. I'm sorry, I don't. Some people are very short term. They just like freak out over a short term. Sure, this is like a week of downside, but is it a bearish market? Absolutely not. How is this a bearish market, right? Look at this. So I don't really get emotional like that. I know it's downside and I'll play it, but right now, can you call that a bearish market? Not really. It's just some weakness in the market, But if you get a little bit more extended, I think 10% is what are the numbers, guys? You guys know this, but I don't really pay attention to this. It's like 10% a pullback or 5% a pullback, 10% a correction, 20% a bearish market. That's sort of how it works. But yeah, no, I don't consider this a bearish market. I just consider this a downside move that you can definitely take advantage of. So Caterpillar, just watch that resistance here at 227. That's what I'd watch. You guys can see it starting to reject that already. So, but either way, I'd watch Cat. Yeah, 10%. So Cat, one that is slightly stronger. Keep an eye on that. All right, Netflix. All right, yeah, 20% bearish market. All right. Here's the weekly chart on Netflix, guys, and you can see how did this thing just give up. This thing just gave up the whole move, right? So we had this huge move here happen back in August. You guys can see August. You can see that push higher up to around 33%, 33% move on August, and then look at the push all the way back down, right? So we've given up this entire little pump. You can call it a pump and dump, honestly. You can honestly call that a pump and dump, right? Because it moved higher and then it went ahead and gave it all back. So now you are right back in this range that Netflix has been in. You have a little bit of an uptrend here on Netflix on the weekly, right? Little bit of an uptrend. So maybe that's where you come back to. Maybe you come back to the 100 SMA here on Netflix. But yeah, just not pretty. Not something I would try to play back to the upside. There is absolutely no bullishness showing here. So, not something I would try to go ahead and dip by just yet. But you are back within this very large range, a range that we have traded in since July of 2020. So Netflix right back in the trading range. What happens here is anyone's best guess. Just wanted to alert you guys of what's going on. Over the last year, you can see we got that pump and we are back within the range. So nothing here showing bullish on Netflix. The last 10 days have been downside. Maybe you continue to look for that downside today. But yeah, Netflix gave it all up and maybe more. Qualcomm. This is the last stock we're going to look at today for me, but we're going to look at some more from the members. If you guys are a member of the channel, I'll go ahead and look at some more that you have. But this is something I am definitely watching for downside, guys. This is something I definitely want to see move lower. This would make a lot of sense to me. Why? Because one, it's held up pretty decently here for the last few weeks, right? Maybe about, probably about about 7 weeks. It's held up here around this 190 level. It's off a very big move, a very big drastic move off earnings, which I think could give back some of this move, absolutely. And I think it provides a pretty easy flush point, right? If you drop below this low of 170.120, right around here, I think this thing could very potentially move back to the downside. Why do I say that? First of all, tech is getting weak, semis are getting weak. This thing's holding up, so maybe there's a little bit of a, maybe it's trying to hold on, but ultimately it might not be able to. And if that happens, I want to be someone that's playing downside on a stock that is still extended, right? I don't want to be playing downside on a stock that's dropping below lows. I want to be trying to look for a downside play on a stock that is overextended still, potentially. On top of that, you guys can just see the price action of these wicks. If you guys know wicks, if you trade price action, you guys can definitely say and agree with me that these wicks are not very pretty. They aren't good looking. Wick. This one's a little bit full bodied. This one's nasty, and this one is the nastiest. Last week is the nastiest of all the wicks. So just these wicks to the upside, guys, are just showing that every time the stock moved higher, it got sold off. Stock moved higher, sold off by end of week. Stock moved higher, sold off by end of week. This one's really bad, broke out of all-time highs and sold off by end of week. So if we get more of this, I would love to see this breakdown. You guys can see this could be a very nice flush point. Engulf this price action, get this breakdown. That is what I'm going to be looking for on a Qualcomm this week. So we'll see if it happens. I'm not going to just jump into it blindly. I'm not going to just buy puts it open because I think I'm right. That's not how you trade. You wait for it to start to look like it's going to happen. You wait for the push to start pushing lower, right? You don't just buy puts because you think you're right. You need to wait for the breakdown, wait for the rejection to come in. Then you jump on it and see if you can play it. That's Qualcomm. That's what I'm watching. That's how I'll leave off what I'm going to be looking at today. But now let's go ahead and jump into what the members want to look at today. If you guys could take a second, press the like button if you're enjoying the live stream. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Here we go. So we're going to look at Roku, Baidu, Amazon, and CSCO. What's CSCO? I've heard of that. I don't know. Cisco, that's right. Sorry, I knew that. So hold on. Let's get that pulled back up. All right. All right, Roku. So you guys remember I played the downside on Roku? Dollar Tree did not trap me last week. I never got into it because it never showed what I wanted it to do. So this is the difference between, I know I talk about things on this live stream, guys, but I do not get into everything I talk about on this live stream. I'm not someone that's emotional. I don't get into plays that I talk about because I think I'm right. I thought last week that Dollar Tree was going to fall. Why did I think that? Because I saw this rejection come in. I'll show you right now. I'll walk through. If you guys are in the Discord, you know exactly what I'm talking about because you are part of this. So I started to see this rejection come in. Now, this is what I wanted to see. Can Dollar Tree start to play back to the downside? Now, on Friday, if we get into the 1 minute chart, what you'll see on Friday is that Dollar Tree never showed downside in the morning. So Dollar Tree opened. This is the morning. Dollar Tree opened. It pushed lower. It pushed back higher. It never showed downside. So I never got into this play. It pushed higher, and once I saw this push off that support, that was it. I never looked at it again, and I never played it. So maybe that's still a possible play. It still maybe is. It actually is still rejecting off this area. You can see those wicks coming in. But just because I talk about something here, guys, does not mean I get into it. It's got to show you, the entry. You don't just jump into these things. Anyways, Roku. You guys know I played this downside last week. I played it again on Friday. I played it twice. And you guys know I was looking for that 190 drop. It happened, and it happened very nicely. Nasty. Just nasty. Nasty stuff on Roku. I think you're coming back down to these lows, absolutely. Or these previous highs. 170. That's probably where you're coming. Right here. You can see these previous highs on the weekly chart. That is exactly where I think Roku will move back down to before finding some type of support. So just a nasty, nasty rejection. Look at the push higher. Sorry. Let me get this back up. Look at the push back higher. Look at the rejections that came in. We spotted this. We had a little bit of a bear flag right here. Breakdown, huge breakdown of a bear flag. Just nastiness. Beautiful downside. Awesome. Congratulations, anyone that played this. I know a lot of you guys in the chat did. I think you come back to 170. I don't think there's anything bullish, anything that would make you want to buy this stock. I don't know why Kathy Wood continues to buy it. Looks terrible. Maybe she just has, maybe she thinks this thing comes back. I don't see this coming back. Roku is a business model that can easily be taken out. I really don't like Roku as a stock. After seeing what the reaction to this and just sort of coming around to what really, just reading about their business, learning about their business, I don't see it ever being back to this level. This is just wild, guys. $4.90. This is a $500 stock for a company that has a little software on a TV that Google could easily kick to the fuck. I don't want to curse. Easily, Google could just kick them out. Apple could kick them out. Any of these manufacturers could say, "Hey, we're gonna make our own thing. We don't need you anymore. Go eat dirt." So I don't really like this. I think this continues lower. I think 170 is probably where you watch this to the downside. But I would expect some support to come in at the 170 level. But you still got about $5 to the downside. So, yeah, just nasty. Really ugly. By BIDU. Maybe in a few decades, they'd have to come out with something really interesting before I think that comes back. BIDU. I don't like that it's a Chinese stock. I don't like that exposure they have. That's definitely hurting the stock. I do like how it's starting to hold this area. You guys can see here on the weekly, starting to hold this 135. I think you need to wait. For first of all, you need to see some positivity in the Chinese names. You need to see some positivity in the Chinese names. That is what I would want to see first. Let's see, if you start seeing Baba pushing, if you start seeing JD pushing, if you start seeing some Chinese names starting to get some steam, then watch BIDU. But until then, keep it on the back burner. I wouldn't really push yourself into this one. You have a really nasty downtrend here that is held very, very well. You guys can see. Look at this downtrend. So I would first wait for the downtrend break, and then I'd want to see some positivity on the Chinese stocks. That's what I'd be watching. So watch that. Low enough for Apple to buy them out? Maybe that's what Kathy Wood's going for, just a buyout. You never know. Maybe she knows something we don't. I don't know. But yeah, BIDU downtrend. I would want to see us break that downtrend first for sure. All right, Amazon. I gotta say, guys, I don't like to say that I don't like a stock, but I really do not like Amazon. I don't like anything about this stock. I like the company. I love using Amazon. You know, I'm a big Amazon guy. Love ordering stuff off of it, but this stock is just terrible. I mean, it's just a terrible, terrible stock. I mean, congrats to anyone that makes money off this stock. I applaud you, and I think I definitely envy you if you are someone that is consistently profitable on this. If you find the opportunities, if you scale up, if you have the cojones to trade this stock on options. Me personally, I don't have the risk tolerance, and I just hate the way it moves because I don't understand it. If I don't understand it, I don't trade it. I do not understand the way that Amazon moves for certain days. Certain days the NASDAQ's flying, Amazon's down. NASDAQ's terribly red, Amazon somehow is going up. It doesn't make sense to me, and I just do not like it. And for that reason, I don't really give good advice on it. So I will be honest with you. There's a little bit of an uptrend here on the weekly. You got that resistance at 37.66, but this stock has just been ridiculous. It's just been chopping around. Maybe you look for some support to come in here around this 3,100, 3,200 level. That would be my best advice to you. Watch this 3,200. You can see here, bounce off 32, bounce off 32, bounce off 32, and maybe you get another bounce off 32. So that's what I'd watch. A bounce off the 32 level. Cisco. So here we go. Here's Cisco. You guys can see this is the weekly chart, and it's got a nice push recently. We have pulled back. What I would be looking for is a hold of this 59.60 level or 58. So if you go to the daily chart, you can see we're actually starting to get that retest hold right here. So does Cisco move? You know, this would be interesting. Is Cisco sort of ignoring this overall market? It seems like it is a little bit, but you guys can see, look at this previous resistance turning into support right here. So this is a break and retest. However, I would just be a little bit cautious, especially with what the market's doing right now. So just be a little bit cautious here with what the market's doing. You can see a little bit of a rejection there off the 20 SMA. Look for that pushback lower. Just watch this 60 level. If you're bullish on Cisco, I think you got to watch the 60 level. You need to hold 60. We're going to look at SMH, and then we'll take a real quick look at Tilray because it had earnings this morning. SMH just stuck. Watch this support at 295. That's what I'd watch on SMH. Semiconductor ETF. That is going to affect, obviously, what NVIDIA AMD does. But yeah, see if it holds this 295. That's going to be crucial. If it does not, you're going to start dropping here. Finally, let's just look at Tilray real quick because you had earnings this morning. Yeah, you're getting a little bit of a push. This price action just is terrible. Look at these candles. Just not something I'd ever have interest in. This is a terrible weekly chart. A weekly chart that makes me cringe and not even want me to look at it. So, yeah, guys, please be careful here. I know there might be some opportunity. Tilray is getting... I mean, when you guys see a stock like this, see how it just slides and slides and slides? You got to understand what's going on here. This is just a mass exodus. It's just sellers that are just stacked up on each other, getting out as fast as they can possibly get out. Just huge short sellers that are, just stacked up here, just slowly covering their positions, just people exiting the stock. It's just a really big, terrible, just really hard stock to be investing in. What you have to also understand the psychology behind a move like this, or even the technicals behind it. Any pop you see is going to be heavily sold into. Any pop that comes and can't get out because they either don't want to take their loss or they're waiting for a bounce. If you bounce, all of these people are going to be selling. So what do you think that happens? That creates an imbalance of sellers once again, and it pushes right back lower. So just watch that. Be careful here. There are so many people stacked up here trying to sell, and you are going to get stuck in another sell-off if you hold this thing, or if you start, trusting this move. So just be careful. Be careful. That's all I'm saying. All right, that's it. Thank you guys so much. If you guys could take a second out of your day to either close the chat, press the like button, or just press the like button if it's there for you. We got about a little bit. Let's see. What do we got? 200 likes, 295. Very nice. See if we can get to, let's say, 500. That's always the goal. 500 likes is always the goal. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you did enjoy it. Take a second, press the like button, subscribe to the channel. Fidel, I emailed you about that charge, so take a look at your email. I'll figure that out with you. If you want, just message me on Instagram. It makes it easier. So thank you guys again. Hope you have a fantastic day. Take it easy. It's Monday. Wait for direction to be there. Wait for the market to show you what it wants to do. Look for some rejections off the previous day close. Maybe look for that fake morning bounce. Definitely, you don't need to get in Monday morning and start going crazy. Give it some time. You come into the market tomorrow after getting a better idea, then you trade. If you don't need to trade today, if you don't feel it, if you're not liking what's going on, then don't do it. Guys, I'd rather see you go net zero today, not make any money, than lose it off of something you're uncomfortable with. So always keep that in mind. Be on your own timeline. Don't try to rush into things. Don't feel like you're against the clock. Don't feel like you're trading against someone else that you're seeing online, trading against someone that is maybe you're someone you look up to and you feel like you need to do what they're doing. Trade on your own pace. You're on your own journey. Keep it easy, guys. Rather save your money than lose it. Seriously. All right, guys. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace out.